more of a conversation. So the expectation is people will be, if they have questions, can answer throughout the question, or would you rather have us to say, hold for questions and we will have them at the end?
We'd rather.
So we have a Q&A at the end, right?
Yeah, exactly. At the end of of your presentation,
at the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A,
which we will start with Dr. Ropke and then goes to the public. So absolutely. Now I'm admitting everyone and doing a bit of a presentation to everyone. I think we have already 5 people here. 4 people. And
so I think we shall start exactly at noon in Brazil, right? So that we are sure that everybody is online when we start, right?
Sure. I'm just admitting everyone so they don't get away. We guarantee people are already online.
Sure.
Oh, Consul General Jan Eichbaum is also online. Good morning, Jan.
Hello, Jan. Good to see you. Your mic is off.
Oh, yesterday I have a webinar that I thought that no one would say that, and at the last minute, in the last question, someone started speaking. It's like, oh no, almost an achievement.
But let me, before we start, thank everyone for this, and thank Danielle for organizing this, and for everyone participate, Ferenc specifically, Cristina, Paulina, thank you very much for the participation.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. We have a biologist here also. Katarina, my sister, is also participating, who is a biology. Katja, if you can show yourself here, but she's a PhD in limnology also. So you have an expert here, and she runs the. I mean, Katja, you have to explain it yourself what your area is, because I didn't. When I went to your doctor thesis, I didn't understand the title, so I think you better explain.
Okay. So hello everybody.
Hello.
I'm a biologist. I work at the Fisheries Institute of São Paulo State, and we work mainly on fisheries and aquaculture here in São Paulo. And until now I was responsible for our postgraduate course in aquaculture and fisheries here in São Paulo. And so I have been working on ichthyology, on freshwater ecosystems also here, mainly in the Atlantic rainforest here of São Paulo state, and also studying some questions related to environmental impacts on freshwaters and reservoirs, which are quite abundant here in São Paulo state. And so this has been our focus here. So,
Katja, Ferenc is based in Hungary, so maybe chat, and then you can exchange experiences, and you know, which is one of the Enrich main task is the matchmaking in this area. Obviously, is part of. So
okay,
put in the chat your contact number, so you can then Ferenc comes to Brazil, Katja, and you go to Hungary. So, you know.
Exactly. I just did it.
I have seen you are responsible.
I'm more responsible for modeling and system modeling, but I have very good colleagues in limnology and fisheries and so on. Yes.
Great. I will leave my contact here.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So it's noon already. I think I can begin to make the presentations. Thank you everyone present here. Thank you SPNegócios for the partnership. My name is Daniel Rubin. I'm the head of institutional relations at the Consulate-General of Luxembourg in São Paulo. I have the pleasure of organizing this meeting around sustainability, and this is part of São Paulo Techweek, which is a week dedicated to technology, but not only digital technology, as everyone almost goes straight to it. It's only human technology, management technology, and of course, some themes that are very important today, such as sustainability, which is the roundtable today. We'll have a dynamics of roundtables. So I'm presenting now the speakers, and then each speaker will have their presentation made, and then we will open to the public to collaborate and to make questions and comments. Please do leave a message in the chat so we can arrange a queue and have everyone participating. I'd like to introduce Filipe Cassapo, the president of Enrich, which is presenting the speakers today. Filipe, thank you very much for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having us today. We are very, very happy on behalf of Enrich in Brazil to join the wonderful São Paulo Tech Week. It is a great opportunity for us to show that Enrich in Brazil is here to strengthen the relationships between Brazil and Europe in terms of science, technology, and innovation. So I would like to thank so much São Paulo Tech Week for having us. And of course, I would like to thank the General Consulate of Luxembourg also for having organized this wonderful moment where we will debate together one of the hottest topic, I would say, in innovation, which is sustainability. Enrich in Brazil is here to strengthen the relationship between Europe and Brazil for science, technology, innovation, as we said before, but we have some priorities. And two of our main top priorities in that sense is social innovation and innovation for environmental sustainability. So today we have the great pleasure and honor to have access to some of the top thinkers, some of the top knowledgeable people in the world, both in Europe, in Brazil, for debating together the impact of innovation for sustainability environmental projects. So we have the honor of receiving today Dr. Ferenc Jordan, who is the director of the Center for Ecological Research in Hungary. We have the wonderful honor also of receiving Dr. Paulina Achurra, who is a researcher at Insper. She's also a very big expert in the team we are going to debate today. And we also have the honor of receiving Dr. Cristina Ropke, who will be part of our Q&A session after the two speeches that we'll have this morning. She's the CEO of Phytobios, Pesquisa e Desenvolvimento e Inovação. So let's get started. So I would like to introduce to you now Dr. Ferenc Jordan. He's a Hungarian biologist, system ecologist interested in biological networks, mostly food webs, habitat networks, and animal social networks. He is a PhD in genetics. He presently is the advisor and director of the Balaton Limnological Institute in Tinani, Hungary. He was also a Bronk-Weiss Fellow and a principal investigator at the Microsoft Research COSB. He's a fellow at the Wissenschaftskliniken zu Berlin of Berlin in Germany and associate researcher at Station Zoologica, also in Italy. So he's an editor in major journals, major panels, several bodies in the world. He's really a wonderful expert. Thank you so much, Ferenc, for joining us this morning here in Brazil, this afternoon in Europe. So the floor is yours, Ferenc.
Okay, thank you very much, Filipe, and thank you very much for the invitation to be able to speak here in this wonderful week. And let me share my presentation and I can start. You hear me and see me, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So if you, let me make it larger. 1 second. Okay, so my name is Ferenc Jordan. I'm from Hungary, and yes, I'm an ecologist. I'm more like a theoretical ecologist, a systems ecologist, and I'm very much interested in any kinds of networks, ecological networks, many kinds of biological networks. And today I will speak about some issues about the link between sustainability and technology. If you see this beautiful coral reef or any other ecosystem, a tropical rainforest or a lake ecosystem or a river ecosystem, you see that there are many species, and these species not only living together, but they form a community. So there are many interactions between the species. So what you see here is not only some fish species and some corals and some jellyfish. It's an ecological community. They have many interactions between each other. One is a predator, the other is a prey. Two species can be competitors. Two species can be symbiotic partners, mutualistic partners. So there's a very rich interaction network. And this is absolutely essential in ecology, absolutely essential in life, in nature. The question is, what happens if one species goes extinct, like the yellowfish in the middle, in the top middle of the picture? If it goes extinct, what is the problem? It's not only the problem of the fish, because if it goes extinct, it goes extinct. What to do? It's a problem for the community, because the fish had many partners in the community, and if it goes extinct, all of the partners will miss it. Some partners wait for it as a prey, wait for it as a predator, wait for it as a mutualistic partner, and so on and so forth. So if something happens with one species, that means that you destroy a little part of the rich interaction network between the species, and you make a very serious perturbation in the network of interactions in the system. And that's what we are doing in fisheries, for example. If you exploit marine resources, if you fish on tuna, if you fish on anchovies, if you fish on sharks or whatever, the question is, what is your effect? Whether the system will react in a very bad way, in a not very bad way. What is the reaction of the whole ecosystem? Because whatever you fish, whatever you consume from the sea will have many kinds of effects all around in the community. So on the left, you see a big fishing vessel, and on the right, you see a marine food web. And today I speak about marine fisheries, but I could speak about many other things. There's the same in the rainforest, there's the same in many other ecosystems. Whatever we do in nature, whatever we take out from nature has effects in many directions. So in the food web, if you look at it, if you look at the network of the species, it's clear that if you do some kind of disturbance on the sharks or on the tuna, on the squid, on the zooplankton, on the shrimp, for example, their position in the food web is different. So maybe the effects will be different as well. And the question is how to eat fish, how to consume marine resources in a sustainable way. And what is sustainability? Sustainability is something very complicated. So the top left is the ecological side of sustainability. That's what I am speaking about today. So how the ecosystem will react if you do some kind of disturbance in the system. But on the top right, you see that sustainability is clearly as a matter of economy, as a matter of sociology, as a matter of technology. So whatever we do with nature, and whether it can be stable on the long term, whether natural resources can be depleted or not depleted, or revitalized or not, these are all matter to sustainability, and all of these features are very important. So if you go back to ecology, the ecological side of sustainability, we have to know that populations have some kind of dynamics in nature. So the number of fish individuals, like the number of tuna individuals is changing. Sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less. That is natural. So many species live together, so they influence each other. If the number of tuna goes up, maybe the number of anchovies will go down. So they are not independent of each other. You have to keep in your mind that we have one single planet, and no resources are infinite on this planet. Everything is finite. So whatever you do, if you don't manage it well, maybe you lose it. Maybe you can produce not reversible, irreversible processes. You have to know that in a complex ecosystem, whatever kind of perturbation you do, you will get a response. If you overfish tuna, if you overfish sharks, if you overfish anchovy, other species will give you a response. The system is not static. The system will adapt somehow. Maybe this is very bad or not very bad, maybe good to some extent. It depends. You also have to know that many of these processes are non-linear. So it's not like 2 and 2 makes 4. It's like 2 and 2 makes 5 or 6. I mean, to put it very simply. So these are the non-linear effects, and the non-linear effects are non-linear processes are very dangerous because they are not very easy to predict. They are not very easy to understand. They are not very easy to plan with. And also there are many indirect effects in complex systems. So if you do something with the predator, something will happen with the prey, but also with the prey of the prey, and the predator of the predator, and the competitor of the prey, and so on and so forth. So it's a very complicated network. And that's another thing why it's not very easy to make predictions about the system. So let's imagine that you have one fish species like yellowfin tuna, and you want to calculate what is the maximum sustainable yield, how much tuna we can eat without causing any problem to the sea. Traditionally, we make maximum sustainable yield calculations for each species one by one. So traditionally, we make it one by one. So for one species and the other and the third, we have the value, how many tons of fish can be fished every year. This is not bad, but it's a little bit unecological, I would say, because the key point in ecology is that these are not independent. So if you overfish one of the species, the maximum sustainable yield for all of the other species is not the same anymore. So what we need, and here comes technology, here comes mathematics, here comes computer science. So what we need is to make calculations on the joint overfishing and the joint maximum sustainable yield for many species. What you see here is a very simple model. It's a food web of 15 species, not too many, so it's not very complicated. And the question is, what happens if you overfish 2 species, not only one, like the 2 red nodes in the graph? And today, if we have enough data, if we have good algorithms, if we have computer science and mathematics and good methodological arsenal, methodological toolkits, we can make simulations and we can try to understand what is the effect of fishing on 2 species, not only on one, whether it's additive or not, whether it will be worse than the sum or better than the sum, or is just the sum because it's additive. And what you see on the right is to fish on 2 species in every combination of the network, you can quantify what is the reaction of all of the other species. So we have 15, we overfish 2, what is the reaction of the other 13? That's what you see by green and red coding on the right columns. Of course, you don't see everything, you don't have to understand. The key point is that you can simulate strong and weak effects and positive and negative effects. So whatever, if you say, I want to eat tuna and anchovy, okay, and then we can calculate the response of cod, for example, or the response of sharks, or the response of jellyfish, the response of krills in the system. And one of the tools here is network analysis. If you have a complicated network of interactions, again, we are linking sustainability to technology. If you have a good network analysis platform, you can quantify what happens with all of the other species if you disturb the white one. If you do something with the white species, you can influence all of the others to a different extent. And the size of all of the nodes is proportional to the size of the effect coming from the white node. This is because of the way they are linked to each other. This is the topology of the network. Also, you can make simulations, like network simulations. It's only for illustration. On the left, you see some simulation runs. If you are running a food web model, you can see what is actually happening in the system, how competitions, how trophic cascades are working. And in a complex network, finally, you can quantify the relative importance of species. So the rank on the right tells you that if you disturb any of the species on the top of the rank list, you generate huge responses from the community. Many things are changing in the community. So these are the very important species. If you make some kind of disturbance, like overfishing, on the bottom of the list, the response is not very large. So you can fish much better on these species. The reaction is not so brutal. The reaction is not so big. So around the end of the list, species are relatively less important for the whole system, and around the top of the list, species are relatively more important for the whole system. That's just the model. So the outcome depends on the data. The outcome depends on the nature of the model. It's not perfect, of course, it is science. But actually that is the way how sustainability and sustainability-related calculations could be done if technology supports ecology and technology can support ecological decision-making. Sustainable fisheries in the kitchen, because we are not only scientists, we are also individuals who are hungry in the evening. There's a beautiful website. It's called I can't recall the name, something like sustainablefisheries.com or something. So you see beautiful fish there. It's a Japanese website. And if you make a choice what you want to eat, then the website tells you if it's a very good choice, not very good choice, but a good alternative, or something to avoid, something you shouldn't eat because its fishery is not sustainable. Of course, this website is not absolutely trustable because these are very complicated issues. Nobody knows it. But it's very important to see that there is an interest among the people, among the gastronomy people as well. What is sustainable? Because it's one issue what you want to eat because you like it for cultural reasons. It's one issue how much is it? It's one issue how expensive is it, of course. But you also want to see, you also want to understand if it's a good choice from the viewpoint of sustainability. And if you try to eat something like bluefin tuna or orange raffy or Chilean sea bass, the website will tell you don't eat it. Eat something else. Eat anchovy. This is much more sustainable. Don't eat these guys from the marine food webs, because if you eat these guys from the marine food webs, the response of the whole ecosystem will be very bad. So, a summary. Sustainability is something very complicated. It's very multidisciplinary. So you have to understand, as I said, technology, sociology, economy, ecology, everything together. It's a complicated issue. And today I was speaking only about the ecology side of sustainability, how to sustainably fish species from the marine food web, for example. And so we have to remind ourselves every day that we live in a finite world. Nothing is infinite on Earth. So if we brutally overfish something, it can happen that it doesn't come back anymore. So there can be many irreversible changes we generate on Earth. And so we have to know that human impact, whatever we do, has direct and indirect consequences in a rich network of interactions. The impact is spreading in many directions, and many of them are not very good. And again, we have to say that many of the perturbations will generate many responses, and it's not easy to predict what is the actual net outcome of what we do. And again, and that's the final remark, that technology and the new IT technology and artificial intelligence-based technology and new algorithms and new mathematics can help a lot to ecology, to marine fisheries management, to develop the mathematical basis of systems ecology and sustainability-focused marine resources management. So on the right, what you see is only the Stazione Zoologica in Naples, one of the most important research institutes on the world on marine sciences. We are doing collaborations there. Atlant Eco is one of the big European Age 2020 grants we are working on now. It's a huge project, it's 10 million euros. And Tara Oceans is the big project of many countries, mostly Brazil and South Africa and Italy and France, working on the much deeper and better understanding the ocean, the planktonic life of the ocean. So that's all what I wanted to say. I hope I'm more or less in time, and thank you very much for your attention, and I give back the word to Filipe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ferenc, for your wonderful presentation, very inspiring. Through your presentation, we do really understand what is system thinking. You know, this complex web of phenomenon where when you change one of the parameter, you have impact in the whole web of phenomenon, right? And it's very interesting to see that we have some computation models that help us understand better what are the consequences of what we do, because this is very complex, as you said, is the theory of complexity.
And, exactly, in many cases, decision makers are thinking of one species or the other species.
Right.
And yeah, it's easy, we understand, it's easier But at some level, you have to link these things together because we are working with ecosystems, not in the list of species. Yeah.
And this is the big challenge of complex thinking. So once again, thank you so much, Ferenc, for your wonderful presentation. Now I would like to give the floor to our second speaker for this morning, this afternoon. I would like to give the floor to Dr. Paulina Achurra. She's graduated in chemical engineering and biotechnology engineering at the Universidad de Chile. And she has a master's degree in chemical engineering and a PhD in chemical engineering, both from the Stanford University. She is also a postdoctorate at the Neurodegenerative Disease Laboratory of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Since 2013, she has been a professor and researcher at Insper, where she participates in the development of and the implementation of engineering undergraduate courses. Professor Achurra has extensive experience in biotechnology researches, mainly in the use of microfluidic techniques and advanced microscopy techniques, such as the D-Storm super resolution microscopy applied to the study of the interaction of biomolecules. Thank you so much, Dr. Achurra, for being with us this morning, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Filipe, for the introduction. It is a real pleasure to be here. I will share my screen with you to get started. Can you see my screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so today I will tell you a little bit of an ongoing work that is very different from microscopy and microfluidics, the previous work that you mentioned. And what we are doing here is we are really thinking of how we can create value for society in balance with nature and with its people. We always tend to think about sustainability. Most people just focus on the environment, and this is just to bring us and remind us that the people part of the sustainability process, it's really important. And this project, we are trying to address both sides, improving the residues management in vulnerable communities, and also improving the quality of life of its dwellers. Okay, so usually when we pick up the newspapers, we run into headlines like this one. We see Brazil is recycling very little. We generate huge amount of solid waste. Most of that solid waste is not used, so we lose about 3 billion reais per year. It's an economic loss because we don't use these residues. And even if you are not in Brazil, and if you are in other parts of the world, developed countries, you might feel better because you are recycling, but the more we learn is that maybe the recycling process, it's a myth, and what is really happening with the residues we produce? Are they really recycled, or maybe they end up in other countries? So in the ground, this is what it looked like, this challenge. We see here different images of problems with solid waste management. And some of these pictures are in Brazil, but some of them are Nigeria or Philippines. And so we know that poor waste management in social vulnerable communities is really a global problem. So to address this challenge, we partner with a local community. It's called it's a favela, Vila Nova Esperança, here in São Paulo. It is a small community for Brazilian standards, where about 600 families live. It has an amazing leadership. They have many initiatives that go into the direction of improving their sustainable ways. So for example, they have a community garden. They are moving towards bioconstruction of houses. And so it was an ideal partner for us. And you already might be wondering, well, this is a very different context of what I see in my company. And that is true. I agree, it's a very different context, but the challenges we're addressing, I'm sure they're very common. So one of the challenges we need to address here is that we want to change, we want to encourage more sustainable behaviors. And we know that information is not enough. We know that information is not enough for people to change to more sustainable behaviors. So we are going to use some knowledge, some research about community-based social marketing to design the system in a way that will improve, that will encourage new more sustainable behaviors. Another commonality is the process we use. Long gone are the days where you used to think of a solution and implementing all the way to get to the end and see whether it works. We work in a process where we engage with the community, or we engage with the context, whatever that is your context. You propose a solution, you test, prototype, learn, and then you continue with this process. So I'm sure even though the contexts are very different, in your companies, you might be following a process similar to that. The third commonality is that also long gone are the days where we thought about waste, and now we realize that what we have are residues, and what we want to do is to add value to these residues. So in our case are recyclables, but in your companies might be any other type of residues, and you're wondering, how can I add value to these residues? How can I re-enter them into the production chain, or can I transform them into a new product? But really changing the mindset from waste to residues, it's where we're moving. So I'll describe you very briefly what was the challenge and what is the progress we have done. This image on the right is showing you how collection, what is the journey map for a dweller? So if you live there, how would you dispose your residues? So there is a container, there are two containers actually in Vila Nova Esperança, and dwellers will go from their home to the container where will they deposit their residues. Usually they will do this daily with no separation at all. 3 times a week, City Hall truck will come, collect all these residues and take them out. And mostly all of the economic potential is lost. Unless these 2 dwellers in the Vila Nova Esperança go there and separate whatever they deem recyclable from whatever they don't think it has value. So how does it work for them? So for the dweller, their journey map, how it looks at their work, it's every day at 5 a.m. in the morning, they will wake up Doña Maria, which is one of the main dwellers that leads this recycling initiative today, with a partner. They will go at 5 a.m. to this container where we have all the residues not separated, and by hand, without using any protection in their hands or in their faces, they will handpick whatever they deem usable. They will separate it, and then they will sell it, and they will leave behind whatever they don't think has value. You can imagine this process, it's burdensome, it's not very profitable, and it's very unsanitary. So our challenge was, well, how can we create a solution to this problem that is sustainable, appropriable, and replicable, and that improves the management of recyclable residues in vulnerable communities generating income and improving the quality of life. So it has to be sustainable, specifically economically sustainable, because if it doesn't generate enough money to pay for the system, then it's not going to last very long. It has to be appropriable, which means that the tools and the processes needs to be appropriated by the dwellers so they can run it and do it on their own in the future. And it has to be replicable because, as we mentioned at the beginning, this is a global problem. And so if it works in Vila Nova Esperança, we want it to work in other communities. So the solution we came back, it's a joint solution of a food bank and a recycle center. And very briefly, I will tell you what we mean by those two component solution. So what do we envision the collection will be tomorrow? So tomorrow, for the dweller's point of view, he will still have the container where he will deliver his waste, his non-recyclable residues, but he will take clean recyclables to what we call recyclable center. And in this recyclable center, the dweller will exchange recyclables for food. So if you can think of, it's an exchange coin where now something that didn't have any value before and they will just toss into the container. Now there is a monetary incentive. If they clean it and they bring it to the recycling center, they can exchange it for food. And then one of the questions we will need to ask later is how much this monetary incentive needs to be for people to actually exchange and clean and separate their residues. And this is why information, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's not enough. It's not enough just saying, look, there is a monetary incentive. If we want to incentivize this more sustainable behavior, we need to think deeper about it. So this part of the solution looks at better management of the recyclables. And what happens with the with Doña Maria and his partner? Well, this very burdensome work that she had before now will completely change. She wouldn't have, or they are not gonna need anymore to go and handpick residues from the container, but they can work in the recycling center that will receive clean plastic, metal, and glass, and you can either sell the material to cooperatives before, or more interesting, we can add value and transform those materials in something that can be either interesting for the community to produce, or that could be have value to be a product that can be sold. So we have a recycles management part together with the value added part of our solution. We've done some pilots in the community to test whether they generate enough income, enough plastics, enough residues to be interesting from the economic point of view. And our first results, they indicate that we do have enough material produced within the community that it will make it financially viable. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the recycling center and what we have learned so far here. So the recycling center started inspired by another initiative called the Precious Plastic Initiative. It's a Dutch initiative, and they're doing amazing work creating open source machines that you can produce locally and have all kinds of different products and ideas how you can transform plastic into ever-growing number of ideas. So we got inspired by this project, and one of the machines they have, it's a shredder, which is the initial step where we need to start from a plastic bottle and cut it into pieces so we can transform it into another object. The way our process works, as I mentioned, we co-design with our users, and this it's a fantastic experience, but it's also a huge learning opportunity where we can get directly from users. We can discuss technical issues as we are discussing here. Something wasn't working with the machine, so it was very concrete what we could do about it. But we could also, discuss possibilities and ideas and make it very concrete for dwellers what we are talking about. It's an amazing way to engage them. So we prototype with them and we co-design with them from technical issues. We went back to the labs to build the AI machine, troubleshoot problems, issue, and we also prototyped what we mean by transforming the plastic. So this is not new technology. We have known how to transform plastic from quite a few years by now, but one thing is to do it in the lab with a controlled oven and all the tools you need. Something different is to do this, try to scale it in communities where you're not going to find this kind of infrastructure. So the infrastructure we will find are more like an oven and a pan. And this is what we did. We tested before how we can transform it in the lab, what kind of models we need. Would it be a silicon model? Should it be a hard model? What kind of objects are interesting? And then we went back to the community to transform with them, to test again what was easier for them to work with, what they saw potential. And so here we see the machine in action. We see CISA learning how to work with the plastic, how to unmold. And here they are thinking what kind of images, what kind of objects can we do? Those were not very good ones because it were irregular shapes, but quickly their imagination started flowing, and with these other more regular objects, they quickly started imagining how you can, for example, decorate your kitchen or create a new floor in all kinds of objects where with our very different context might not be so obvious what their needs are and how to use them. So in our final, here is the ideas they decide. We prototyped with many different dwellers from different backgrounds. Nene was very familiar with construction, but had never worked with plastic. The kids obviously have total different approach, and even they were able, with the help of an adult, they were very excited to produce these objects. And Doña Maria here, which is the person that was telling you at the beginning, she was in charge of recycling, and along all the process, I would say, was very hesitant of the idea because she saw us as competitors. We were using the material, we wanted to use the material she was collecting. And now you can see here how engaged and happy, and she could crystallize and see the potential she could have with using the recyclables she used. So with that, I just want to acknowledge the students that work in this work, Artur, Gabriel, Rafael, and Vinicius, and Leah, the community leader, Maria, Nene, and many other dwellers from Vila Nova Esperança. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paulina. This was a very inspiring presentation. And I think that we can see there is a very close link between innovation for sustainability and what we call social innovation. And in what you have presented to us today, we can see that we are actually part of the problem, all of us. And it means that we are part of the solution. And you are part of the solution. The brain work you have been developing is really a wonderful way of showing that we can design the world that we really desire. Thank you so much, Paulina, for your presentation. So now we are going to get to the third part of our panel today, which is our Q&A session, where you will be able to interact using the chat and asking your questions. And before we introduce Dr. Cristina Ropke, who will be part of our Q&A, I would like to mention that we have a very special guest today with us, who is Mr. Jan Eichborn, who is the General Consul of Luxembourg, and is together with us in the room today. So thank you so much, Jan, for joining us this morning. Thank you for your presence. Now I would like to invite Dr. Cristina Ropke to join us for our Q&A session. Dr. Cristina Ropke is a PhD in pharmacy biochemistry from the University of São Paulo. She's the CEO of Phytobios Pesquisa, Desenvolvimento e Inovação, and Phytobios Nordeste, which is a biodiversity-based technological innovation company. She's experienced in projects for the government, funding and requests for authorization to access generic heritage for research, bioprospecting and technological development purposes. She is an inventor with 4 patent applications also. Her work includes operating in intellectual property in partnership with universities and Institute of Science and Technology in Health, which are called ICTs. During her postdoctorate, she worked with the evaluation of natural products in the preservation of skin cancer. She implemented the discipline pharmaceutical strategy for preventing skin damage induced by solar radiation with natural antioxidants for the graduate program of the FCF at the University of São Paulo. Currently, she is the tutor also of the IEL Innovatalentos program. Thank you so much, Dr. Cristina Ropke, for joining us this morning. I would like to give you the floor now, Dr. Ropke, in order to please start by giving us your consideration, your analysis on what has been presented by Ferenc and by Paulina. So, Cristina, the floor is yours.
First of all, thank you so much for the invitation and for the amazing presentations I just had the chance to see, because it's so clear that the planet will not be here forever if we go on treating it the way we are used to, and that we are dealing with complexity. And complexity is something that when we look to the world authorities, they are like not wanting to deal with it. And here we have clear examples how when you put science, when you put the workers, when you put the small communities together, how solutions can be found when we deal with the complexity of the world that we're living in. And as the CEO of Phytobios, I'm also director of Central Flora Group. It's a pharmaceutical ingredient producer based on biodiversity. And when we look at the biodiversity in our planet, there are so much hidden treasures there, like a lot of molecules that we have never seen before, that are in our oceans, that are in our forests, and that can be inspiration for new drugs to treat unmet medical needs, and huge solution for the pharmaceuticals areas. And one of the ingredients that we produce in Brazil is pilocarpine. Just to imagine, you have more than 1,000 families working in the supply chain. Is a higher value added supply chain. So all these families, they take care of the forest because they depend on it. So at the moment, we are still burning all this treasure down. And I'm happy to see the example that I just have the chance to see here, to see how humankind is able to work together, to put knowledge together and transform the planet that we are living in. And I would like to start with a philosophical question that I make myself every day. Will our generation be able to transform it? Or are we gaining time that the next generation that will be maybe more capable of dealing with complexities and with the difference that we have between everybody that's living on the planet right now, and that makes so difficult for all of us to work together for a better planet, be the solution? And will we have time for it? Or does our generation have to do more that we are already doing now?
So the floor is open. Ferenc, Paulina, what is your opinion on that? Will we solve this question with our generation, or are we just preparing for the next generation?
My opinion is that we know a lot, but we don't apply it. We are lazy. So we should just speed up. We should just think about it. We just speed up. And actually, we could manage many things in our generation, but I wouldn't bet that we will do it. Just we are extremely reluctant. We are lazy. We are lazy. Paulina.
There is a very interesting quote by the Worldwide Fund latest report, where it says, we are the first generation that is totally aware of the science and the impact of what's going on. We must be the last generation that can do something about it, to prevent it. And I think more and more the science is that the conversation has shifted from prevention to adaptation. I think, unfortunately, we have taken so long to take the measurements that it's very likely that we won't be able to prevent all of the changes. And now the question is how we adapt better and we do the best to prevent huge changes, to prevent irreparable changes. But I think we have to recognize that now the conversation has shifted the focus to adaptation, in my opinion.
I like very much this quote, and this is a lot of responsibility. We are the last generation that can do something about it. So as Ferenc has just stated to us, we have to be a little less lazy, and we have to really focus on bringing solution. We have a first question from our audience and a comment, so I would like to give the floor now to Mr. Jan Eichben, who is the General Consulate of Luxembourg. Jan, please, your comments and your question.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the organization in this so important subject. I thank you, Ferenc, for your explanation and so crucial in the areas of waters and anything related to water is crucial and looking into the future. So and in Luxembourg we have a very, or Luxembourg say it's let's make it happen. So I think we as Enrich, I'm honored to be part of the board of Enrich, is an excellent tool to make this happen. I mean, actually, how can we effectively, not only on the research basis, but also on Paulina's great example on what's being done, because I think you have so many specific in Brazil, but in Europe, so many really exceptional experiences of what's being done, regardless of the financing or not. And I think Paulina, I think this project you presented, I think I in São Paulo, I coordinate the EU consuls, European Union consuls initiatives of programs. So would be very important for us if you could show us, and then if the moment and vaccines permits us and so forth, that we visit this project, because I think we can be of help, because I think this is one of the areas where we should communicate better of what's being done, because I think all the news we hear, all the critical news and so forth, but I think there's so many great projects around that I think we should communicate them better and see how can we effectively use specifically in the area of recycling and social, you know, and the social economy effectively to participate because it's a job generation part, it's a social project, you know, it's an environmental project. So I think this is very, very crucial for us to know, but also our European friends. So I want to, you know, this is more a comment, and I think Cristina, I think also your remark, I think we can in our generation participate and I think the communication part is the first thing of our, you know, the communication and with small little examples, you know, with small little examples starting in our houses in recycling or in the water part, or, you know, I think so they are, and making sure more and more people know about our commitment to the next, you know, that's empathy, that's health. You know, I recently had a meeting with the secretary, the national secretary of waters and sanitation, you know, and they're very open to ideas and projects. He is a technician, but they're very open to project, specifically in the two areas which were mentioned. The water, you know, the recycling of water, the usage of water, the care of water and its funds, but also in the area of recycling and waste. You know, I think there are over 3,000, which she told me, over 3,000 open wastes in, you know, in Brazil. And in the Northeast, 70% from so the only waters which are produced in the Northeast, only 70% actually reaches the consumer in the slums or not. So I think, imagine, so the waste of water we have in Brazil, I think this is a number for the North and Northeast, for every 100% of water generated and its start until it reaches only 70%, only 30% are there. So I think there's a tremendous thing. And I think, Ferenc, I think your contribution with your experience in water and fishes, you know, which is also an important part, the fishing, which is also the sustainability of a whole profession. So I think I suggest, you know, the linkage here with Dr. Catarina also to see how projects can be done and finalizing my remarks. I think Enrich is very committed to environmental technology, environmental innovation, and the good news is that we can be of support to go after European grants and financial support for such initiative as Paulina showed, or as Cristina mentioned, and also in common project as Ferenc mentioned. So I think please use whoever is not part of Enrich. Please, then Filipe could put our site already in the chat, but I think this is exactly our commitment and the commitment from the European Commission. Then this money we're receiving is from the European taxpayer, and until 2020, this was financed by the European Tax for Innovation Technology called Horizon 2020, and as of 21, we'll have Horizon Europe, and there's a budget for the next 5 years of 80 billion, I say billion with a B, euros for innovation and technology. And out of, obviously there's a part for Europe, but a substantial amount also for initiative, as in Brazil, as we are in Brazil, for project in innovation and technology, and specifically the environmental actors. So I think please do contact us, because that's our aim for Enrich, to approach projects, but also to have a contribution in our generation. You know, so that's just some remark. And I thank you very much again of Consulado-Geral, and I think more and more Consulado-Geral, which I think it's also that someone from who is part of it explains the project of Consulado-Geral, and I think this is a very much, Silvana, good to see you again. Silvana, if you could, you know, I think this is a very important theme for São Paulo. Consulado-Geral is the environmental and technology and innovation. So then if you could just share a little bit Consulado-Geral's objective, and I think this is a very consistent. Thank you very much. Sorry to have extended myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. So Enrich is here to serve. Ferenc, Paulina, Cristina, you will be very welcome to bring your projects so that we can make that happen together. We have further questions and comments on the queue right now, so I would like to give the floor now to Luisa Lanzer so that she can make her question. Luisa, please. Tell us your question.
If you could show yourself, we can hear you, but we cannot.
Yes,
we cannot see you.
Luisa, we can hear you.
Yes.
Now,
Okay, now I can
We can
see
see you and we can hear you.
Okay.
Your question, Luisa.
So my question is, what do you consider to be the main obstacles in implementing the new discoveries that are made at the universities at really big scale, global scales? Do you think they're mainly economic issues? The solutions we have at the university as research, they're still very expensive, or also lack of interest? For example, big companies that earn a lot of money selling plastics, they don't want to contribute or be a part of the change? Or bureaucracy? What do you think could be the main obstacles in having a big scale implementing really globally? Thank you.
Thank you, Luisa, for the question. So who wants to start?
Let's start then. Thank you, Luisa. It's a very interesting question, because this is what we all wonder. Well, we know many of the answers. We know what we have to do in many areas. Why is not happening faster or at the pace we need? And I will say one of the main issues is conflict of interest. Conflict of economic interest and who has power to influence, and that's why any social movements are so important. More and more, we need the individuals. We need you as individual, I as individual, to pressure our legislators and to demand change. Our legislators, they care about what we care. So we need to pressure either with carbon emissions, or demanding clean water, demanding to clean our rivers, demanding to stop burning the forest. If we don't care, then change doesn't happen very fast. And I'll say it's a political decision.
And also in the question, you provided many answers. So many people know what to do, many people are willing to do, but there are many constraints. It's a very complicated society, and complication, because of the complexity, it's not easy to change it. So then there are many bureaucratic constraints, many legal limitations, many economic limitations. And even if you would know what to do, even if you know perfectly what to do, it's just not easy to do it, because it's incredibly hard to change the system. So these are systemic problems. So many people as persons know what to do, but the system doesn't let them do it. Like if you own a company, if you produce a lot of pollution, you as a person know very well that this is not right. But if you as a CEO don't do it, you don't have the profit, and your company will collapse, and there will be another company who produces even more pollution. I mean, maybe that's so simple, nothing else. Systemic problems.
Systemic problems are complex. Cristina, what would you say? How to take the research out of the university into concrete action? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities for that? Your microphone is, yeah, okay. Go on, Cristina.
Something that I was commenting before we start the roundtable is that with the COVID pandemic, we are having a unique chance to meet more colleagues from government, from the university, from the industry. And like I'm taking part in our areas, pharmaceutical area and bioeconomic area, in meeting groups with different ministries in Brazil, with the academic community. And there are so many, there is a huge amount of, like, we know where the problems are. It's not only lack of investment, it's more a thing of organizing the good projects that we have already started, to putting them more closer to the regulatory environment, and so they can receive investments and go to market and generate return. And when we're talking about natural products, we are under a legislation that guarantees that you receive back a part of the value to invest in the protection of the environment. So Brazil has not anymore huge problems when it comes with access and benefit sharing regarding biodiversity. So we are talking a lot, and we are now we have the diagnosis, and we are having a chance to go and organize, connect, put people together. And it's not always, I've always heard there are a lot of projects, and or there is money, but there are lacking projects. No, that's not the case. It's more a thing of connecting the innovation environment in a more productive way. Is like organizing and evaluating projects and putting them on the track for sustainable development and this kind of thing. So at least at that point, I'm optimistic to see a transformation, and also in the startups environment, how the Brazilian startups are getting better known, they have a better chance to survive, and so on. This kind of discussion is happening right now.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, Luisa, for your question too. I would like to give the floor now to Silvana Gomez from São Paulo Negócios. Silvana, please, your question, your comments.
Thank you, Filipe. And first of all, I would like to thank the Luxembourg Consulate and the Enrich for organizing this great panel with such specialists on the team. And wow, the discussions are so great. And of course, sustainability is an important subject for the City Hall of São Paulo. We just embrace the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030, and many key indicators are being constructed, and we do a lot of work to get some sustainable actions, not only for 2030, but for every day in the city. And I worked for some years for the cosmetic industry, and I know there's a lot of programs involving the local communities in the Amazon forest, and I know this work contribute somehow to preserve the forest. So I would like to invite Cristina, maybe Paulina, and Dr. Jordan to comment this. How important is the work with local communities in the forest to protect the forest? And also having the biodiversity as the use of the actives from our biodiversity as a competitive advantage for our products that are exported around to the world, to many countries.
Thank you. So,
can I start?
Who wants to start? Cristina, yeah, please.
Yeah, very good question, Silvana, and thank you again for putting me in touch with this great public here. And one thing is the great value of innovation that we have in our biodiversity, and local communities can and make part of it. One of the examples when we had the chance to talk was one of the biggest projects of Phytobios is collecting plants in Brazilian forests. So we have 5 collecting sites in the Amazon region where we are taking plants, preparing extracts, and these plants, they are analyzed in a partnership with the Brazilian particle accelerator. It's called Sirius, is one of the most potent synchrotron light generators in the world. So Brazil has high technology, and you can link this to the local communities. But this is a kind of work, this radical innovation work, like working on discovery of novel molecules for pharmaceutical use, where you cannot generate the return of this investment in a small time. So that because it's an economic question, people need to survive, and if they don't have another choice, then it's hard to protect the environment. And I just met like 2 weeks ago from the Foundation 30. I don't know if you know this foundation, is in Santa Catarina, Florianopolis. They made a huge map of the bioeconomic potential of the communities in the Amazon region. They just presented this work at the Association of Fine Chemists. I'm the director for biodiversity at this association, and it's amazing. And we are running against time. So we know the communities, we know the potential. And when we are talking about like a cosmetic industry, about food, or in these areas, you can generate return in a very faster way than in a pharmaceutical field where I work mainly. But the map is ready. The communities are known, the potential also. And even where universities are closed, and the conclusion that they made was that where you have the biggest potential, bioeconomic potential of with talents, you also have the areas that are burning the most. So we are burning our value down, and the chance to give a better life for these communities also. So I agree with the answer for my first question. We are running against time. We have to do something about it. We have to put all these people together and these competences, because we still have a chance to change it. And I will leave an example, a small video of the social and environmental impact of the supply chain for pilocarpine. So you have like a concrete idea of the potential. This is only one molecule for the pharmaceutical area. Imagine the others that are hidden there. So that's it.
Thank you, Cristina. Ferenc.
And so whatever kind of solution we find as decision makers in a ministry or in a company, whatever, it must be feasible and profitable. And whether it's feasible and profitable, the local people will know it. So whatever kind of fantastic idea I can have, if it cannot be done, or if it's not economically, it's not advantageous for the local people, nobody will do it. So if you want to give food for your children, you don't really care the red list of species or something. You want to give food for your kids, and that's why it's a very nice balance between the fantastic knowledge we have, and that's really a fantastic knowledge, and the practical applicability and feasibility of all of these solutions. It always has the local people, and they, of course, it's. I don't mean that, for example, science is not important anymore, or just the local people know the answer to everything. Of course not. But it's always very important to listen to them.
Thank you. It is indeed very complex. Paulina, what would you add in terms of rainforest, biodiversity, bioeconomy?
I totally agree with Ferenc that as long as we, as people don't meet their basic needs, that would be a priority. They will turn out the latest tree, the latest, they will fish the latest fish to meet their basic needs. So this is something we need to think about before we say we need to protect. We do need to protect an area, but it's not just protecting an area. We need to think about how do we help local communities to meet their basic needs. And what we know is that local communities are very good at meeting their basic needs in sustainable ways. So we should learn from them. We should learn on how do they manage forests, how do they manage fisheries, because they have done it for many, many years. And now when we look back, we see that the areas that are best preserved are the ones where we have local communities there. And it's not that we are not talking about this idea of protecting an area and just prevent anything happening to this area and we just have it there to look at it and to feel good about nature. We are not saying that. We are saying we can live, we can exploit an area where people can extract produces and can manage trees in a sustainable way, and they know how to do it without destroying the environment.
Thank you. We have plenty of interaction in the chat also, so plenty of links, videos have been shared. Thank you so much for that. We have time for one last interaction and question. This is from Luis Antonio Tavares. Luis Antonio, please, the floor is yours for your question.
Luis Antonio, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, we cannot hear you, Luis Antonio.
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear now?
Okay, now we can hear you. Yeah, now we can.
Sorry for that. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I was not planning to speak any words here, but just chatting the tool we developed with regarding the sustainability. I just put in the chat the link to the digital twins, and the digital twins are a new technology now that can help and will help the sustainability in the industry from now on. I don't know if you are familiarized with this terminology, but all industries are now going to have their digital twins, and this will allow the industries to know better the groups and allow the community to have access to their information very safely. And this will allow us to cooperate with you, with professors, with doctors, and allow the people to understand the problems that industry have and propose solutions to them. And I hope this will lead us to a better world after some years, many years, but this is the way, I believe. So that's my contribution. I am a chemical engineer. I'm working in chemical industry for 35 years, so I know very well. I mainly work in the pulp and paper industry, which is leading to this problem with the waste. And nowadays I participate in the association, Brazilian association. So I know industry is worried about this matter. So we want to people help each other to better understand the problems, the interests, the problems that the industry generates. Well, that's it. I was not planning to talk. If you allow me, I can talk many minutes here. Believe me.
Sure.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you for the contribution. Thank you for the contribution. There is a question here. What is the importance of digital transformation for sustainability? Ferenc, you presented us some information on using artificial intelligence and computer models for that. So what is your consideration on that?
Yes, Ferenc.
Yeah, if we speak about sustainability, we speak about many things interconnected with each other. So it's really a complex issue. That's why we cannot really manage it very well. So computer science and information technology should help a lot, and it can help a lot. So it can very well support decision making. It can help to integrate many kinds of information. It can help to provide integrative, maybe simulation models. It can help, it can offer a lot of wisdom to us. The question if we can apply it, we are willing to apply it. If it goes against economy, if it goes against the legal limitations, what is the solution? How to find a compromise between the so-called technology-based green solutions and economy and the law? The law seems to be ridiculously simple to change because we created it. We can change it in one day, but it's not the case. To change the laws is very hard. And that's one of the main obstacles against the solutions. We will know that there are legal limitations. So technology and information technology are extremely useful, just like engineering, just like mathematics. We know a lot. The key point is how to look for the compromise between these and many other aspects.
Thank you. Paulina, Cristina, what would you tell us about digital tools for social innovation and sustainability?
I think as Ferenc mentioned, these issues are so complex and they're all interrelated between them. The technology can definitely help us to better understand, to better predict, to think about solutions. Definitely that's a tool, but it's not going to be the only tool. I think we have to recognize that in order to move forward, we will need to rethink the way we do many things. And so we will need to put together the digital innovation together with changes in behavior. They need to go hand in hand.
Maybe we have to put the people at the heart of the technology and not the country, right? The technology that governs the people. Cristina, what would you say about the digital transformation and social innovation, sustainability in your experience?
It's giving us a chance to gain time, because depending just on our brains, we would not be able to see a map like we just saw with the fish and to see in such a clear manner the impact that we're causing on the environment. So definitely a chance for us.
So it is indeed a tool, an important tool, but we need to have focus, right? Because plenty of things can be done with digital models. So what is the more important in terms of research? Where do we have to go on the research in artificial intelligence, in computer science? Maybe we have to join better sustainability and computation, right? This is what Ferenc has presented to us. All right, so unfortunately, we are getting close to the end of our panel today, but I would like to hear now the conclusion words of our wonderful panelists for today, and I would like to thank them. So thank you so much, Ferenc. Thank you so much, Paulina, Cristina. It was wonderful to have you today. And please, I would like to hear now your conclusion words for this panel. So maybe we can start with Paulina. Paulina, what would you tell us now as a conclusion?
Oh, I would think one of the main conclusions is we should get informed and we should take action. So I would say don't wait for others to take actions, get informed. We have many amazing studies as Ferenc showed us that clearly show us the effect and maybe what it hint us to the solution. Let's take action. We can change this.
Nice. As would say Mahatma Gandhi, we have to be the transformation we want to see, right? Not just about talking, it's about acting. Ferenc, what would be your conclusion words?
So, something very similar to what Paulina said. So instead of just thinking 20 more years and 40 more years, it's like learning by doing situation. So we have to try to do it. We have to try to find not the best solution. We have to try the quasi-best solution, a quasi-good solution, and then to adapt it locally to many local issues. We have to do it right now. Maybe it's not fantastic, but we have to do it. It's much better to do something suboptimal immediately than searching for the best solution and not finding it in the next 100 years.
That's very interesting. Let's take action and let's not be paralyzed by perfection, right?
Absolutely.
Things don't have to be perfect. We have to go to action, prototype, and then change what needs to be changed. Thank you so much, Ferenc. Cristina, what would be your conclusion words?
That I still will have to fight the best I can to contribute and to work on projects that focus on sustainability, because from what I learned, the next generation maybe will not have time. And we are the ones that have to still focus, try to communicate better, to make science stronger, and do everything we can that is in our hands to save the planet.
Thank you so much, Cristina. Thank you to all our panelists. I was very happy, glad, and honored to moderate this panel. In order to close our session, I would like to give the floor back to Daniel. Daniel, thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Filipe. Thank you to all the speakers, Ferenc, Paulina, Cristina, everyone who made their comments and questions. It was a very inspiring and rich debate. And speaking of Enrich, I'd like to thank Enrich itself, not only Filipe Cassapo, its president, but remind you all that it is a very important institution that is gaining more terrain in Brazil to make connections in sustainability and technology. So keep an eye out. And thank you very much. Have a great end of year. Keep taking care of yourselves, and well, we see you in 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.